I felt like that in the beginning of it, right? When I first saw the headlines and I saw that they was, instead of him fighting Lamont, he'd be fighting Jake, whatever. At first I was like, damn, Tank, like that's kind of crazy, like that's fucked up. But then I started thinking about it throughout the day. I'm thinking about it, I'm seeing the posts and shit. And I'm like, yo, none of this shit is guaranteed. Like none of this shit that we do in life is guaranteed. And it's also not a guarantee that we all gonna be here for a long time. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. We all know somebody that died too early. You know what I'm saying? And one thing I know about life, when I hear old heads talk, you ask them about regrets. I wish I would have did this. I wish I would have did that. I wish I could have did this. I wish I could have did that. At the end of the day, man, you taking a shot at some money. We all wish we could have made that kind of money. I don't understand the issue. He could come back and fight whoever he want after that. His career is not over just because you fighting Jake Paul. Jake Paul ain't no type of fucking demon. This is not like he about to go in there with Godzilla. You about to play around for 8 rounds, 2 minutes with a dickhead. You know what I mean? No disrespect. But, you know, with somebody that think they know how to fight. This is a bank robbery. You know what I'm saying? This is what people do in the corporate world every day. Steal fucking money. He doing it. I'm not mad at that man. Fuck that. I ain't mad at Tank for some shit like that. I'm mad. I was irked about the fact that I'm a boxing guy and I love great fights. But at the same time, if I stop over here to make some good money and then go back to doing what I was doing, there's nothing wrong with that. Anybody who's waiting around for Tank or anybody who's so tuned into Tank that they mad, they need to get a f***ing life. Because if you think about it, nobody got mad at Chris Brown when Chris Brown said, you know what? I'm gonna be taking pictures after the show, and I'm charging $1,100.
That's it for today's video. Stay tuned until next time.
One more things before I let you go. Jake Paul is fighting Gervonta Davis.
Crazy.
Your thoughts on this?
I have locks with Snaggy right there. I think Jake Paul wins that fight. You're way look. Obviously, Gervonta Davis has way more experience. He's a hell of a fighter. He's done so much more for boxing, and you know, than a lot of people. But to say that, you know, that's not, everyone's going to want to watch that fight. I think it's a genius idea. I think Jake Paul sets the craziest expectations, and I think he sets the bar so high now in the boxing world. Jake Paul revived boxing. You know, people can say what they want to say about it, but Jake Paul really revived the sport of boxing. You know, Joe Rogan once said previously, not so long ago, but he did speak about how boxing would eventually die out and all the eyes would shift to MMA. And it's true. I sit there, I'll watch UFC whenever there's an amazing pay-per-view event. I'm always watching it. Boxing, I don't really watch it as much. And yeah, you can call me a casual to the sport. I'm just getting into it. But the people that are just getting into the sport, UFC is like the new boxing, what it was 20, 30 years ago. So Jake Paul is changing and reviving the sport of boxing, in my opinion. But I think that Jake Paul wins that fight. I love Gervonta as a fighter. I think he's amazing. I think he has great technique. He has crazy knockout power. Don't underestimate him.
You've spoken to him before, haven't you?
Yeah.
When you're doing it was you and Ron Garcia and Gervonta and Tank when they were fighting.
Yeah. I just spoke with Gervonta today, actually. So when I get back to Miami, him and I might do something. I don't know. But, you know, I think, like I said, don't count him out, but I think Jake Paul wins that fight.
In fact, it puts his name in front of millions of new casual fans who might not normally follow boxing. And legacy fights with stars like Shakur Stevenson or Teofimo Lopez don't disappear after this. If anything, Tank enters those negotiations with a bigger spotlight and a bigger purse. In short, the fight is dividing boxing because it represents the sport's identity crisis. Is boxing supposed to be about merit and legacy? Or about entertainment and money? Davis versus Paul forces that question like few fights before it. And whether fans love it or hate it, they'll be watching. For Gervonta, Tank Davis, the Jake Paul fight isn't a roadblock, it's a springboard. If Tank puts on a good performance in this exhibition, he won't just walk away with a massive payday, he'll carry newfound popularity into his next real fight. Many believe that should be a rematch with Lamont Roach, who gave Davis all he could handle in their controversial first meeting.
I don't see, even at an exhibition. Now, first of all, we went with the Mike Tyson thing, right? So Mike Tyson's 60 years old. You know, obviously we all thinking that, you know, he had to pull his punches against Jake. Either one of them, both of them had to do something to get through the fight, you know, so they couldn't do their 100% thing in the fight. Now we talking about a 135-pound guy, 5'3", right, against a 6 foot, 200-pound guy. What is the point of that? I'm asking you, what is the point of that? What is the point of that, and how you think that's gonna go? So Jake Paul just alone on strength alone, Tank is not a. We just seen him struggle with Lamont Roach, right? Who's a guy his size. Now Jake Paul is not as talented as Lamont Roach, but come on now, we ain't talking about 2 weight class. We talking about 4, 5, 6 weight classes. Come on, we got to go from 35. We got to go to 40, 47, 54, 60, 68, 75, 90. That's 7 weight class difference. 7 weight class difference. 7 weight class difference. We talking about 7 weight class difference. We all know Tank best weight is 35, 40. You fought Barrios at 40, 35, 40. And you fight Jake Paul, who getting better. I'm like I said, and he got 6 feet tall. Where Tank gonna hit him? Where's Tank gonna land some punches? And he don't throw a lot of punches. Come on now. He didn't knock Lamont Roach out. You gonna knock Jake Paul out? So what's the point of the exhibition for real?
In fact, plenty of fans and insiders thought Roach actually won that fight. That's why a rematch has been building anticipation ever since. Was Tank just off that night? Or does Roach simply have his number? They've gone back and forth since their amateur days, and boxing traditionalists see unfinished business. So why take the Paul fight first? The answer is simple: money. Reports suggest Davis could pocket around $50 million for this exhibition. From a business standpoint, it's hard to argue with that. Win or lose, he can return to Roach afterward with even more public attention, and even more money on the table.
And it definitely seems like this is that he wants the respect of legitimacy. He doesn't want to be looked at like some type of, circus act. Like, people think that he's doing these fights that are being thrown. He's not legitimate, and his detractors are saying that it's like, yeah, okay, well, you did this and you did that, but these guys were old, or, they were retired, or this and that. But the fact of the matter is, when you fought a real fighter, you lost. So people are like, you're not legitimate. That's what people say. So after everything I've seen on him, if he can beat Tank Davis, I think he'll have his legitimacy card. If he can beat or do something like Rocky 1 to where you got people questioning who won, then he's going to get all the respect in the world. That's how I think it's going to go. Because I've seen Tank just destroy people, body people, play with his food, with people. You know what I'm saying? Tank is legit as it gets.
Shakur Stevenson gave voice to the inner conflict many fighters face. He admitted his pride would drive him to settle the score with Roach, but he also acknowledged the lure of the Paul payday. Legacy matters, but so does generational wealth. And sometimes the timing makes decisions easier than fans want to admit. Trainer Greg Hackett may have put it best. To him, Davis's choice is just smart business. Boxing is called prize fighting for a reason. The prize has always been financial.
Then this is the type of event that will probably push him even further along in his popularity. If he puts on a good performance and it's an exciting fight or exhibition and anything, and he winds up somehow looking good in this, I don't know how it is. It looks to me David and Goliath, but David got skill and Goliath doesn't. But I don't know how it's going to work out. But if for some reason it winds up being a really fun event and it has tons and tons and millions and millions and millions of viewers, when Gervonta Davis goes back to his next fight, which I hope would be a Lamont Roach fight, then maybe some of that will wash into the next fight and it'll be a bigger fight and more money in it for the fighter that he'll actually fight next, who, again, I certainly hope is Lamont Roach. So why did he do it? It's very, very, very clear that he did this. Gervonta Davis did this for the money, and it's not an illogical thing. And if somebody in his situation has this to do, consider all things considered. Hey man, you know this is what people are gonna do. So he has a fight with a tough Lamont, very, very tough Lamont Roach, who people did not say was a tough fighter before he fought him, but Lamont Roach is a very, very tough fighter. He had a deal already done to fight Jake Paul before he caught that draw. So if I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt, I'm gonna say, okay, great. If you you already signed for the Jake Paul deal, that could be $50 million. I'm hearing the numbers, I'm hearing somewhere around $50 million. Then if you go back and fight Lamont Roach, and the anticipation for the Lamont Roach fight has increased, then you kind of get a double dip on it, and it may work out extremely well for Gervonta.
Taking a lucrative one-off with Paul doesn't erase Tank's legacy or diminish his standing as a world champion. It's simply a detour that lets him cash in before getting back to meaningful fights. Hackett even drew comparisons outside the sport, saying it's no different than what people do in the corporate world every day, securing opportunities when they're available. Davis isn't risking his career here, and he's not stepping in against a monster. It's an exhibition against a fighter who, while improved, is still learning the ropes. In Hackett's words, this is just a big robbery, a smart way to grab the bag and move on.
Included, and many people, including Shakur, thought Lamont Roach actually won the fight. So it's a highly anticipated rematch because of the night of the fight. The fight was actually 15-1 in favor of Gervonta Tank Davis. So the whole world wants to see Gervonta Tank Davis rematch Lamont Roach. Was it a fluke? Was it, a bad night for Tank Davis? Was it a style matchup? Bad matchup for Tank Davis? Does Lamont just have his number? They fought twice in the amateurs in close fights. What is it, right? And Gervonta Tank Davis, in the eyes of the boxing world, needs to rematch Lamont Roach. So Shakur addresses why you not rematching Lamont Roach. He was rumored to rematch him. He was rumored to rematch him in June 21st, he didn't sign. Then August 16th, he didn't sign. But he told you the night of the fight, the post-fight press conference with Lamont Roach, that he not rematch him no time soon because he already had this set up with Jake Paul. So Shakur says he would do the same thing as long as he could rematch Lamont Roach because of his competitive nature and his hunger and drive to be great in the sport of boxing.